So BMW's launched an entirely new car with an entirely new platform, with an entirely new software stack, with an entirely new electrical architecture, and they failed to include any kind of camp mode, keep climate mode, or dog mode. Now they will tell you, well, you can keep climate, but it's only 30 minutes and then it shuts off. So 400 kilowatt charging in a car that costs $60,000, instantly impressive. So the initial impression is smooth and comfortable, which I was not expecting. That might be the best one pedal drive tuning I've ever experienced in terms of the last 1 mile an hour. Man, it definitely gets out of corners just fine, and it's going to give everyone what they're looking for in a back road, but it absolutely leaves a lot of room for a sportier variant at some point down the line.
This video is brought to you by Ionna and OpenVPP. Ionna, the EV charging network brought to you by the world's leading automakers. Ionna is raising the bar on what it means to charge. We're talking a 400 kilowatt charge rate minimum, nationwide network built with the customer in mind. Fast, reliable, affordable, every single time. And OpenVPP, a global virtual power plant for electric vehicles. See vehicles charging across the world and zoom in to see real-time charging status in what aims to be the world's largest vehicle virtual power plant. OpenVPP allows you to track charging history, energy usage, and daily trips, comparing your usage versus others day to day and month to month. With OpenVPP, we're working together to showcase the potential of EV charging to electric grid operators. There may even be future coordinated EV charging rewards coming soon. So sign up today at world.openvpp.energy. It's completely free to join and takes under 60 seconds.
Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome to Spain. In this video, you are going to join me for my first ever drive of the BMW iX3. It's the first Neue Klasse BMW, and we're going to do, of course, so much more than that. I'm going to introduce you to some of the people behind this car. We're going to discuss engineering topics. That's why I came all the way here to Spain, not just to drive the car, but to actually meet the people who engineered it. So we'll discuss battery, charging, motors, infotainment, and more with the BMW engineering team, and really dig into what makes the iX3 an amazing car. And I'm so excited to drive this one because the numbers on paper just seem amazing. This will do 400 miles in the EPA cycle on a charge, so 400 miles of range, 400 kilowatt charging, and it's going to start around $60,000 US. It almost seems too good to be true. Pair that with a complete new zonal architecture, a really cool operating system, I think a beautiful interior with, of course, subjective exterior looks. It's growing on me. We've got ourselves one hell of a value right here, and I think it's a vehicle we haven't really talked about enough, and I hope to bring you all up to speed on what makes the new iX3 so cool, and even more than that, the first Neue Klasse, which will underpin the future of BMW for years to come. And so digging into this car will really give us a hint of what the future holds. So join me here in Spain as we drive the iX3 for the first time. Big news, guys. The Climate Exchange EV giveaway raffles I've been telling you about are ending very soon. Coming up on December 8th will be the last day to enter for your chance to win a luxury EV such as a Rivian, a Porsche, Mercedes, Lucid, you name it, because Climate Exchange lets you choose the winning prize up to $120,000. They even include all taxes and fees on top of that vehicle, which is so cool. At the same time as their luxury EV raffle giveaway, they're also doing a mini EV raffle giveaway with the prize up to $45,000. And that's a really cool one because it's a little bit less expensive to get in there. And of course, you can choose to enter one or both. There's also a second and third place opportunity, $12,500 for second place, $7,500 for third place. And those are just for the luxury EV raffle, the big prize raffle that's going on. Climate Exchange is a nonprofit working very closely with states to improve climate-related policies, such as pushing for more electric car adoption and even helping the build-out of electric car charging stations. So what are you waiting for? Support a great cause while also entering to win some really cool prizes, some great electric cars that you get to choose. And all you need to do to enter is to go to carbonraffle.org/outofspec. I'll leave everything linked in the description below. So the highlights on this car, like I already mentioned, to me, of course, I always love road trip electric car driving stuff. So 400 kilowatt charging in a car that costs $60,000, instantly impressive. 108.7 kilowatt hour battery pack is insanely big for a car of this class. And overall, I mean, it just seems like one hell of a package that's almost too good to be true. So let's go front to back on this. There's some stuff I love. There's some stuff I hate. I will, of course, give you the good and bad, as I always do. And we're going to get to driving it with my buddy Tim Levin from Inside EVs. Shout out to those guys. They're great. As you know, I used to do a lot of stuff with Inside EVs, so it's so cool to get together with him. He'll be in our video later on as well. For now, let's go on a tour of this car. And I've already done sort of a very abbreviated tour at the IAA a few months ago, but now we really have some time to soak in this car to ourselves. So let's look at the front of it. And man, it does have some interesting style cues. Now, this is equipped in sort of the sportiest setting. This is all the M Sport stuff on there. However, the iX3 only comes in one drivetrain and suspension configuration at the time of this recording. It's launching with the iX3 50, which is sort of their long-range all-wheel drive model. It's 345 kilowatts of power, 0 to 60 in just under 5 seconds. And it's again, it's not the sportiest one. It's not the single motor one. We'll have, more performant variants and more range variants coming in the future, more, lower spec ones, but still impressive that this long range all wheel drive will start around $60,000 US. That seems like an amazing value for such a high quality car. So styling wise, even with all the M Sport stuff, this is probably a $70,000 or $80,000 build with all the options ticked. It looks pretty cool. I mean, I'm getting used to whatever's going on with the headlight design where it kind of gets pointy over there. I don't know. I'm not the biggest judge of character in terms when it comes to design language, but I think it's cool. It's modern. I wouldn't say it's particularly beautiful, but I wouldn't say it's ugly. That's just my impression. And the rear gets very interesting. Before we get over there, let's just pop the hood really quick. So I'm going to unlock the car and pull the hood released, which I have to find really quick. So there we go. Double pull on that particular one. And then we can see what's under here. Under here, we have a cover for the front trunk where you can store charging cables and whatnot. So it's nice, pretty good storage. You have your inflator kit here as well. And this one even comes with a USB-C cable to recharge this, I guess. That's pretty cool. Extra USB-C cable, no one will complain. This is a European spec car, so it uses Type 2. This is sort of your public charging cable that they all come with. The US will have its own set of charging cables included stuff, and I'll get into all of the charging and adapters and the NACS port that the US will have. This will be the first BMW shipping with native North America charging standard. Come around to this side where the sun's showing over here, and you can see, again, this one's spec'd in the sportiest setting. You have the dark accents around. This is not the most performing tire that you can get. We are going to go on track later on in this video, and we'll have a staggered setup. This is a 255 square setup. The most performing option is 255 front, 275 rear on Michelin Pilot Sport tires. These are the Goodyear OE tires. What are they actually? Eagle? Does it even say? I actually don't know. It's a Goodyear something. Not exactly sure which one. Anyway, interesting. So it's an OE tire, of course, adapted specifically for the iX3, and the color on this one, can't remember. It doesn't matter. You can play around with it on the configurator. There's so many different ways to spec these. You can get sort of this contemporary interior with white seats that I think looks amazing. Feel free to pop your head in there so you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like. And there's 2 different steering wheels on offer, thankfully, because they offer most steering wheels have this sort of 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock pillar that looks terrible in my opinion. So here, this is the wheel you should try to go with, which is just the normal M Sport looking wheel, and whatever it takes to get that wheel, I think. I'm not into the 12 o'clock thing. We'll look at the back seat here later on as well, and I'll try the back seat room, but you can see fairly simple looking back seat to be expected. I think it's interesting that BMW is launching the Neue Klasse with the iX3. In years past, BMW's sort of always launched the new generation of car with the 7 Series. And that was the case for the F chassis with F01. That was the case for the G chassis with G10, if I remember correctly. Now we have the NA5. And the NA5 is the iX3. NAO or NA0 will be the i3 sedan that will follow this a few months later. I can't tell you much about that car, but I'll have some content coming for you next year on the new i3. Looking forward to that. And so the NA5, the iX3, is the first car to get the new treatment. This is an entirely new battery architecture with cylindrical cells. It's entirely new motors with an induction front motor and an externally excited synchronous motor on the rear. And so it's a cool way to, I think, get the newest stuff in their highest volume vehicles, the 3 Series line, i3, iX3. And I'm so excited that they're doing this because it means that the newest tech, the newest best stuff, isn't costing $100,000 if you want to be first. You're into this, again, let's say reasonable spec, probably in that $70,000 to $80,000 range, which I'm not saying is cheap, but it's just much more manageable and approachable and expected for a car of this class. It's got a lot of iX vibes in it, just in terms of styling and quality and feel, but you know, with twice the charging performance and some incredible stuff. The rear of it looks pretty interesting. You have these lights that come across the back. Of course, this is a Euro spec car, so I'm sure there'll be some slight lighting changes for the US. Probably not in terms of design, but just in marker lights and layout and stuff like that. I should also mention this is a global vehicle, so it will be sold in China and other places. The China cars, by the way, will have a slightly different software and a slightly different driver assistance function, with more driver assistance available than available in the Western world. And they had to work with a partner to do that over there. In terms of trunk space, quite a bit. Now, we do have this partition cover in here, and the seats do fold flat, and we're going to show you that here in a bit as well. But you have underfloor storage, which is great, so you can put, you know, just some charging cables and things down in here. And you have, I would say, a large rear trunk area. To pull this cover out, I'm guessing we just pull it on both ends. I'm going to remove this really quick and set it off here to the side. And I'm going to fold the rear seats down. Now you can see how much space you have. Big height, big length here. And I'll pop in on the back door. You guys can stay there. If I pull these seats down, there's these little straps that hold the seat belt in. Okay, nice. And then there's a pull tab, and they come down just like so. I'll run around and do the other side so we can really get a sense of cargo capacity, because again, the X3 is kind of the do-it-all vehicle. It can be small and nimble enough to be a daily driver, but it's also practical enough to put big dogs back here and you know, really carry quite a bit of stuff. It's surprisingly spacious, feels just as spacious as an iX to me, from my impression. Now, what's a little bit of a bummer, speaking about dogs, are two different things that I'm noticing. There's not many air vent locations in the rear. There's only the 2 center ones here. You do have some rear passenger controls for those, but no other air vents, no B-pillar vents or anything. And there's no dog mode in this car. So BMW's launched an entirely new car with an entirely new platform, with an entirely new software stack, with an entirely new electrical architecture, and they failed to include any kind of camp mode, keep climate mode, or dog mode. Now, they will tell you, well, you can keep climate, but it's only 30 minutes and then it shuts off. And then you've got to redo it from the app every time. I spoke to everyone here. They get my feedback, and hopefully we'll see an over-the-air software update coming soon with dog mode or some kind of way to keep climate on, because it's almost necessary. I get not everyone needs it, but especially in the US, we love to road trip with pets, and I'm like, if VinFast can do it, BMW should be able to do it. So that's my one major issue with this car. Other than that, pretty nice, pretty nice. Let's close the trunk here. Typical BMW buttons. I'll close this up more properly later on, but for now, I'll just throw that back into the trunk of the vehicle. Let's talk charging, range, nerd stuff, all the stuff that you and I care about. Charging port is on the right side, which is the wrong side. Shut up, Bjorn. I think they should have put this on the rear driver's side, but I can open it up here, and it's a AI charge port. Now, there's nothing that makes me want to puke more than hearing my charge port is now AI powered, but it is. And what I mean by that is the car will know when you've arrived to a charging station. It will know when you have the phone key and walk around to the charger, and it should auto open. That's really all it means. And I can just tell it when to open by hitting a button like I just did here. Apparently it's not good AI enough, because I was talking about it and it didn't auto open. So they've got to work on their AI. All right, anyway, jokes aside, 11 kilowatt onboard charger as standard, 22 kilowatt as optional. That's the European spec. In the US spec, you'll have a NACS port as standard. So again, first BMW to launch with North American Charging Standard, or J3400. had to think about which J code it was, but J3400. 48 amp, 11 kilowatt or so onboard charger as standard. The upgrade charging professional package is a question mark, because some BMW folks here told me we're getting a 15.4 kilowatt upgrade, which is a 64 amp onboard charger, and other BMW folks from the US market said we're only getting the 48 amp onboard charger. So I think what we can say for sure is 48 amp as standard. Again, that feels about right for around 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's 108.7 usable. Don't know what the gross capacity is. Huge battery in a small car. Again, keep in mind, that's where you get that big range and big charging performance. And then the upgrade, is it really going to be a 64 amp onboard charger? Later on in the video, I'm going to meet with Leonard, who's responsible for the charging topics. He will tell you all about their bi-directional capability, the DC charging performance where it can hit 400 kilowatts, and it basically only holds 400 kilowatts for 3 minutes, they say, but the rest of the curve should be pretty juicy. I don't think it's going to be matching Cayenne Electric or maybe even Lucid Gravity, but both of those vehicles are much more expensive than this particular one. Hey, I'm still talking about you. Don't close AI charge port. Here we go. Those are much more expensive than this, and I think the charging and efficiency and range and 10% challenge metrics should not be understated on the new iX3. This is going to be a road tripping monster, and I really think that, to me, is the most exciting part of this whole car. BMW recommends an 80% daily charging limit, of course, and there's even a battery-friendly quick charging function that will limit the charging performance to promote a healthier battery. That's what they say. I see it as, if I want to run into a restaurant while I'm charging, I can slow it down a little bit. Charges just over 200 kilowatts at that point, and then also will just shave 10 minutes or add 10 minutes to your charging time, roughly, is my guess. They have not quoted anything. We'll do all the testing and let you know. I like that feature if you're going to DC charge a ton, or if you're DC charging when you're not in a hurry. Even talking to Leonard, he's like, you don't really need to worry about battery longevity. He's like, you can rip DC charging on this thing all the time. It's just an extra function they threw in there. As we look at down the side of the car, this is built on, again, the Neue Klasse architecture, and the battery pack is super cool. Now, I've shown you this before, but it's actually, there are no modules in the battery pack. It is a cell-to-pack architecture. So they use 4695 form factor cells. It's an energy-dense version of their 4695, and it essentially has no modules. It's done by CATL in a partnership with another brand, and it's a really cool design. I love it because they have as much energy density as they could fit in the battery. The cooling jackets go around the round cells, and they basically were like, you can't overheat this thing. You can rip charging, driving, driving. It will not overheat. Love the German repeatability with massive preconditioning logic and all the other stuff to help support it. And then all the power electronics are stored in the Energy Master, which is similar to what Tesla calls the penthouse. That sits under the rear seat, and that's where your DC to DC converter is. That's where your switching matrix is for this to charge on 400-volt chargers. Again, this is an 800-volt system architecture that will, at full charge, be at like just about 800 volts. Dead should be somewhere in the 500s, I would think, maybe 600s. I actually will take this to a supercharger later on in the video. You'll join me, and we will charge it on a 400-volt charger, see what the contactors sound like, see how it goes in the split pack. This does not use a booster. It does take 500 amps from the charge port, whether in low or high voltage mode. That's where you get your 400 kilowatt charging or 200 kilowatt charging on low voltage charging stations like superchargers, which is probably what a lot of iX3 owners will charge on in the US. Okay, I know I'm getting into some nerd stuff, but that's what this whole channel's about. So, you know, just contextually, where does that leave this car in comparison with what else is on the market? Well, it kind of smokes everything. The Audi Q6 e-tron is a direct competitor to this car that at the time, built on PPE, seemed really interesting. 270 kilowatt charging, somewhere in that 90 kilowatt hour range, maybe almost 100 kilowatt hours, seemed like a great road tripper. And then, of course, you have the Mercedes GLC electric, which is 94 kilowatt hours with 320 or 330 kilowatt charging. Again, seems great. And then BMW is just like smashing everyone with 400 miles of EPA range, 400 kilowatt of peak charging, and an amazingly well-integrated system architecture. Speaking of the system architecture, this uses a brand new zonal architecture. Now that's the buzzword that's going around everywhere, but of course, you know, when Rivian went Gen 1 to Gen 2, they took like 1 million ECUs and then turned everything into like 4 or 6 ECUs. This uses 4 main electronic control units for the entire car. So you have an infotainment one, you have a driver assistance one, you have the Heart of Joy, which basically takes all of the driving competencies of throttle, brake, acceleration, ESP, ABS tuning. BMW had to redevelop ABS from the ground up for this car to work in this new Heart of Joy. We're going to go to the Ascari racing circuit, which is a dream. Love that circuit, so cool. We're able to go there and rip this car on track. So we're going to do that later on and play around with their Heart of Joy vehicle dynamics controller and see how that all goes out. On the exterior, on the battery, on the charging, I think that covers most of it. I should discuss the motors really quick because they're launching first with this version with many variants to come. I think there's going to be 40 new BMWs by 2027, so get used to a ton of BMW coverage on this channel. On the rear axle, they use a stronger motor, which is an externally excited synchronous motor. It's very similar to the other EESMs they've used in BMWs of past. There is actually a brush component on them, which is kind of interesting. That's really the only wear component, but it should be lifetime. And they are insanely efficient at high speed because you can keep the magnetic field perfectly in line with the rotor that's spinning. Whereas a permanent magnet motor, you kind of are a little bit out of sync, especially at very high speed. So this car on the motorway, again, we're doing no actual testing this trip, but this in our 70-mile-per-hour range test should do amazing. They're also using an induction motor, an ASM, on the front axle, which means there's no flux-related losses when it's turned off. And it's about 120 kilowatts on the front axle. So if you get a little sideways, it can pull you out with the front motor. If you spin the rear tires, it can add the front motor for all-wheel drive traction. But primarily, this is a rear bias system, a rear driving type car. And I think that is what makes a BMW truly a BMW. I've had some issues with BMWs in the past, i4, i5, i7, iX, where I want to love the cars. I mean, the car itself, they're amazing. They, I think, look pretty good, but I know a lot of people hate the beaver grille, but the interior quality is amazing. The riding quality is amazing. They're good road trippers up until the point where you have to do EV stuff with them, which is recharging. They would have very quick DC charging counters where in the equivalent of 3 charging sessions after a short period of time, it would drastically limit your DC fast charging potential. And we ran into that when I drove an i7 across the country. That's pretty much all solved with this car. This is a road tripper. It's built to be used and abused. And I just think this is an amazing starting point for the brand to go forward. So that is why I took 5 days out of the schedule to come all the way here to Spain, which, sounds really great, but it is like a long way from home, because this is the most important car launch BMW's had, certainly in my lifetime. And I'm so thrilled to be able to share this stuff with you. Let's pop inside really quick. If you guys jump in the passenger seat right there, shout out to the guy filming this for me. Thank you so much. We can show you a little bit of the logic. So first things first, you have phone as a key. You can have up to like 21 phones, I think, hooked up, which is way better than Tesla's 5 or currently Rivian's 2. So I love that you can just share this with all your friends. You can text them the key. Great features. Again, really the only thing this car is missing, I think, is dog mode. There's a built-in dash cam, which is pulled up right now. So that's just something that, was on screen by the time I got in. But the logic is great. You get in, you hit the brake, the car is on. There are some hard buttons here, some very few of them, but you have your hazards, your park, your drive, reverse, and then just defrost. Other than that, pretty much everything is done in the software, which is the brand new iDrive X with the BMW panoramic vision display that is actually really cool. Now, I have a whole video coming in the next few days on this entire system, so I'm going to gloss over it in this review and focus more on the driving and technical topics. But I'm going to meet with Claudia, who's their lead UI UX designer, and we're going to go into a deep dive of all of these topics. But this whole display is so configurable. If you can show the viewers just this right cluster up there, I have battery temperature and amperage and DC charging potential on the display. I mean, if they let me put that stuff there, you can imagine you can choose whatever you want to show on that display. I'm really thrilled with the level of customization. And also the fact that when I sat in the car for the first time, I kind of thought this was weird. And after driving the car today, which we're going to go do in the next few clips, this turned out to be one of my favorite features of the new BMW. Very similar to the Xiaomi U7. That's the only other car that I've seen it in. The steering wheel in the M Sport trim is not offensive. I think the vertical pillars on the 12 and 6 o'clock is offensive, so get whatever wheel this is. And you have all of your driver assistance topics on the right, all of your infotainment features driver assistance on the left, infotainment on the right. They did install turn signals on this car, even though no BMW owner uses them, and then also all of your windshield wipers, very similar to previous BMWs. Again, all of these infotainment topics and software and updates and stuff that you and I care about, EV route planning with preconditioning and plug and charge, it's got all that. That will all be coming again in a future video. But just taking a look at the cabin in here, nice glass roof that goes all the way up. It's very tinted, but there does not seem to be a way to shade it or do anything like that. There'll probably be an accessory shade that you can go into. And it just feels like it's the right size. The X3 has always been the perfect medium down the road, but it feels a lot more premium than the outgoing X3 and way better than the old iX3. American people wouldn't even know that there was an electric X3 before, but this is actually the second iX3. The previous generation iX3 used like a 70, almost like an 80 kilowatt hour battery pack or so, with 74 kilowatt hours usable, if I remember correctly. So you're going from 74 kilowatt hours usable on the Gen 5 prismatic cell and all the old stuff to now the Gen 6 with 108.7 kilowatt hours usable and more than twice the charging performance. So BMW has, I said this when I first reviewed the car, it's almost as if they've skipped an entire generation of vehicles and they've put themselves square in the face of Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, the Chinese competitors, and they finally feel like they're right up there. Because I've been the biggest critic, and you know what? To their credit, they still invited me here and said, hey, come take a look at what we're looking at. I've been such a BMW fan my whole life, and to see them falling behind in the electric space, which they pretty much started with the i3 doing so well, and I still have an i3, it was kind of sad and it was disappointing to really live with their electric products. Now we are not only at the current state of where they need to be, but almost future-proofed. And just the whole thing, from the architecture to the software to the charging to the range to all those, they've got this nailed. So what do you say we go drive this thing? We're going to drive, again, the only Neue Klasse that's out at the moment, which is the iX350. By the way, if you're curious when this car will come to the US, it will be slightly after start of production. They are built in Hungary, not out of Spartanburg, South Carolina, and they will be coming in summer 2026. So we are not quite a year away, but 3/4 of a year away from getting them. However, in Europe, they will go on sale in just a few weeks. So we're a little bit delayed in the US, but by the time the US cars come out, even more features, even more software will be ready to go. And truly, I don't think they can come soon enough. This is going to be such a hot car, and I can't think of any reason to buy an iX, an i5, an i7, etc. right now with this car coming, because it is just so much better than what they've been producing up to this point. With all of that said, let's go drive this thing for the first time, and then later on in the video, towards the end, we're going to interview the battery guy, the charging guy, and the powertrain guy, and nerd out even more about this car so I can give you as much information as possible in my first drive review of the BMW iX3.
Well, guys, it's time to drive the iX3 for the very first time. I'm going to throw it into the standard drive profile. There's also a B mode, which is great. We'll definitely play around with that. And we are off. The very first time driving a Neue Klasse here in Spain. And instantly, we're sitting on auto hold. There's no creep, just came off the brake pedal. But as soon as I release auto hold, it does creep forward in the standard drive profile. So we're going to head out here to the left. My current settings are everything in absolute comfort mode, just getting a feel for truly how comfortable the iX3 can be. It's
in
meant to be
meters,
a daily driver.
Enter the roundabout and take the first exit.
Thank you for that, but we've got to turn you off. So spoken instructions off.
hopefully I don't miss any turns, but if I do, it's okay. I do have a massive head-up display with an exact lane line on where I need to go to, which is very cool. So the instant impression is, well, it's pretty easy to see out of this car in terms of over the hood. I really thought this panoramic iDrive thing was going to feel awkward at first glance, but it truly does not. It is a really cool display system up there at the top of the dash. That coupled with the additional head-up display is really cool. And so I've got a bunch of information at me that I've configured. I've, of course, said, give me everything you got. But you may choose, if you own one of these, to say, okay, I'll take a little bit of a reduced display, or turn the head-up display off, or less display here on the panoramic iDrive situation there. But yeah, so visually, really cool. The next thing that I totally noticed is we've selected the car without the silly 12 o'clock post in the steering wheel on purpose. We'll play around with that later on today as well to see what that's like. But this is just much more of a normal looking steering wheel, and to me, yeah, totally the way to go. You've got to get just the M Sport Pro steering wheel. You can spec a full luxury one, and then hopefully they'll just sell the steering wheel as an accessory, but that's absolutely the way to go. And then the initial driving impressions. Well, there are a few different regen modes and drive modes. BMW says this should have the smoothest stopping of any BMW before. You and I have driven many BMWs and done our one pedal drive testing and found them to be pretty good. They're not quite as dialed in as Tesla or even Rivian, but their one pedal driving has always been nice. Currently, I'm in the adaptive regen profile, which is basically distance-based recuperation. So if a car was in front of us slowing down, I could lift off and the car would basically stop right behind them. That always trips me out a little bit. I know some of our viewers, you guys like that at home. For me, I cannot get on board with the adaptive regen thing. We'll play around with it though, because it is good to see how it's tuned. What I'm most interested in is when you select the adaptive regen profile is you get a soft stop function. Now, we have driven Xiaomi SU7 and other vehicles that have featured this sort of select one brake pedal application and it will automatically trail off at the end unless you're in emergency braking to give you the smoothest stop possible. That's what we need to play around with immediately. So let's go find a place where there's no cars behind us and just do, 2 or 3 soft stops, see how that feels, then we'll ramp up the regen and play around with the rest. Before we get over there, just want to mention steering in comfort is unbelievably light, which is great. This gives you such a nice character for driving around the city, and I'm very pleased with how light the steering is. Of course, there's a sporty mode. We'll get to that in a bit when we drive the car dynamically. But most importantly, I think, is the iX3 has to be smooth, it has to be comfortable, and even without any adaptive suspension in the car that we're in, I find it to be super comfortable here just driving around the city, absorbing the primary road impacts of speed bumps and potholes. No real road texture coming through. It feels really great, and we haven't even gone above 25 miles an hour, but just all those harsh inputs are rounded off. So the initial impression is smooth and comfortable, which I was not expecting. I thought it was going to be a little bit more sporty and harsh, and I'm glad they went on the comfort side initially, but we have plenty more time to play around with things. So let's go find a place to do the soft stop. All right, guys, ultimate test for soft stop. I'm going to run 30 kilometers an hour on a downhill. I'm going to select one brake pedal application. So 3, 2, 1, one brake pedal application set, not moving my foot from the brake. Sun's right at us. Oh, and it so smoothly came off. You're good. My buddy Tim's with me. You'll see him throughout the video. Dude, that was good, wasn't it?
That was amazing.
Let's do it one more time here. 40 kilometers an hour, a little bit of a harder brake. Oh, the soft stop's way better tuned than the Chinese cars that I've tried before. It just really smooths everything out. So we'll get to the top of the hill. I'm going to adjust our drive regen profile now. I wonder if I just go B mode. Yeah, B mode goes heavy regen. Let's see how it feels now. We'll blast around the roundabout here. It's not technically a roundabout, but there's no one here, so. Oh, we won't even squeeze if we did that. It wouldn't fit. Welcome to Spain, folks. We need some bigger roads. Turn around here. So steering lock to lock seems to be like 2, maybe 3 turns lock to lock, 2.5 turns, somewhere around there. It's a pretty perfect ratio for the size of car. You guys know Tesla's like pretty close to 2 turns lock to lock. With Model Y now they've just opened it up a little bit to like 2.25 turns. This is a really, I think, nice ratio where it doesn't feel twitchy on center, even just driving around the city. So let's try one pedal driving. I'm going to go into B, lift off 40 kilometers an hour. Doesn't feel that strong in terms of regen. I'm completely off. If we were in a Rivian, we would have already been stopped. But it comes so smoothly and perfectly to a stop. That might be the best one pedal drive tuning I've ever experienced in terms of the last 1 mile an hour. Here we come all the way. Whoa, that's silky, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I've never not felt a thing coming to zero. So they have
you don't feel it stop.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that was really cool. I wonder if, since we're in B mode, if I put regen to high, if it's stronger. No. So I think what you do is you keep drive profile as set to adaptive energy recovery, and then B mode gives you one pedal drive and max regen. That seems to be the way to do it. If you're an EV enthusiast, just drive it in B mode all the time, which is how I'll probably be driving it today. But shout out BMW for one pedal drive tuning being absolutely great. I would like to see more regen. We should also mention we're at 96% state of charge, so we're still getting probably quite a bit of friction brake blending. We'll play around with this as we drop charge level and see if regen increases. I doubt it will. BMW always targets deceleration rate rather than just regen rate, but we'll play around with it and see how it goes. So we're going to jump onto the highway. We'll play around with the driver assistance, which is going to be hugely important. Some big speed bump impacts coming through here. Very, very nice on all of that. And now we're out on the open road in the iX3, the first Neue Klasse. Man, as a BMW enthusiast for years and years, I have been so excited for this car. As we've discussed in this video and others, I really think BMW was falling behind in the past few years. Their cars were adapted combustion vehicles that just didn't drive right, didn't feel right. They had weird thermal limits, DC fast charging counters, just didn't feel very BMW purpose-built and engineered. And now I think we're kind of at the opposite. Since no one's behind us, let's just test the acceleration, may as well. So we'll go into full sport mode, sport dynamic, left foot hard on the brake, launch control is active. Let's see how it does. It's okay, it's got the stupid noise, and we're right up to 100. So just under 5 seconds, 0 to 60. Definitely does not have a big punch off the line. Tim, what was your impression? It felt okay, but not crazy.
Yeah, I mean, my head did just slam the back of the headrest,
Okay.
so, you know.
Yeah. I have a very warped perception of acceleration, too.
I think most people would find that very quick.
Okay, yeah. And if we just roll into it here at 75, yeah, kph, not miles per hour, allegedly. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Yeah. So, well, it can do, I think the appropriate acceleration for the long-range all-wheel drive spec. Of course, BMW is going to have probably single motors with less power and M Sport versions with more power. They haven't announced anything, but we can imagine where this falls in the lineup, and it feels appropriate. Oh my gosh, I'm instantly blown away with the suspension tuning over this broken road here. Really nice. First of all, very little reverberation or sort of that low resonance frequency coming over those secondary road impacts. That's something you typically get with SUVs, and this had almost none of it, which is really great. Secondly, the road noise hasn't seemed to change from in the city to where we are now, kind of cruising at moderate speed. That's very impressive. And the comfort of the suspension is absolutely there. The Mercedes GLC electric, which is the direct competitor to this car, features an optional air suspension. If you had told me this car was on air suspension, I would believe you after that experience. I am surprised at how smooth it is. Now, that does bring up the question, is it going to lack the dynamicism needed for performance driving? Well, of course, we'll play around with that later on, but let's just get up onto the highway and we'll kind of just send it right through here a little bit. Nothing crazy. Feels really nice. It's eager to turn. It feels way lighter than it actually is. And I'm really blown away with the driving character. It's like a new updated version of the old F-chassis BMWs, which for me always drove great. So I've selected adaptive cruise control, and we have the motorway assist active. If I go through the settings, let's see what it says. It's just on, I guess. We're good. I've got it set to a speed. It's lane centering, and now we're using BMW's
highway driving assistance function. Road noise is a bit higher now that we're at, about 70 miles an hour. So that's, it's also determined on the pavement quality. So we have to try on different pavements, but initially just cruising on the highway, driver assistance, really amazing. We all know that BMW's had amazing highway driver assistant. We've run them in the hogback test. They're always like number 2 or number 3 behind Tesla FSD. And this feels about the same. I drove an i7 across the US last year as part of the i90 surge, and the car pretty much did 95% of the driving that we were doing. Now I'm curious if it's going to ask for a lane change up here. I'm looking in the left mirror because that should be an option. However, it is country specific, so I'll indicate with my left turn signal. It pulls out and it will go for an overtake. And I have great visuals in my head-up display and panoramic iDrive that you guys hopefully can see as well, just to indicate what's going on with the car. Again, just after jumping in it and really experiencing it for the first time, I feel super comfortable behind the wheel. The driver assistance instills a great sense of instant confidence. You can just tell it's locked in the lane, it knows where it wants to be, and it's going to handle pretty much any highway driving task. Now, I still wish they would come out with a real FSD competitor. BMW is just a little bit slow, a little bit conservative, and to be honest, talking to the ADAS guys, really nervous about launching a FSD-like competitor. They have a big name they don't want to tarnish. I think that gets in the way of innovation, and from my side, it's kind of annoying. It says take over steering immediately, and it just shut off for some reason. So as I was just praising the system, it just gave up for no reason. So what's up with that? Well, that's what we need to test throughout the day, those little things, and we'll report back as to how things go. But instantly is highway driver assistance was amazing right up until the moment where it just gave up and asked me to take over. And I really let it take as much time as it could to warn me, and it made this little triple beep noise, and that seemed okay. So much to get into with iX3, but highway cruising is wonderful. I'll let you know how it feels throughout the day. I think this is about the only highway stretch that we're going to get through our drive, which is why I wanted to film it right now. But man, if you've got to take a long trip, the head-up display is perfect for telling you exactly what lane you need to be in. I think the lane centering is amazing. Again, not sure why it shut off randomly, but the overall comfort here, I would give it like a real high score. Very impressive for just being a steel passive suspension system. It is totally comfortable. Viewers, Tim is strapped in. He's ready for some performance driving. He does get car sick, as do I, so we're not going to make him go too crazy. But we do need to get a sense of how the iX3 handles in a dynamic environment, if I can talk today. I've got the car dialed up in my drive mode of preference, which is sport mode and dynamic traction control. So it's like a backed off version of stability control. We'll see if we can go full off when we're on track later. That would be the more appropriate venue to see if we can slide this thing around. But I'm really curious about this whole Heart of Joy situation. It's a centralized ECU that's responsible for all driving topics in the iX3. So it handles all steering, brake, and accelerator pedal inputs, and then makes the output tie together with torque split, brake-based torque vectoring, overall ESP interventions, and BMW tells me it should feel pretty magical. Now, just driving the car without any intervention from the system, it really does feel amazing. Super high quality driving experience. So sport mode, I've got steering in sport, we've got dynamic stability control backed off, and Tim's ready to hold on. So again, I've let him know if he feels scared. I hate being a passenger, so I get it, but let's just go see how it feels from a dynamic standpoint. So we'll...
Didn't expect to absolutely get roasted in your video.
Oh, don't mean to roast you, dude. Look at that. Even some power on oversteer coming out of a corner. Dude, I'm so impressed with how much the rear axle is working. Really, really nice. Come in under braking. We'll definitely get a sense of how braking feels. But as we accelerate out of a corner, super greasy road, but feels awesome. Standing on the brake pedal now. It is a electronic brake pedal. What I mean by that, it's probably a one-box design. So you don't actually feel the ABS feedback in the pedal. You kind of hear the clickiness, but it's way quieter than other vehicles. The Porsche Macan Electric uses a very similar brake pedal, and you just hear click, 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 click. This, I can feel the clicks, but you don't necessarily hear it. So straight understeer to oversteer coming out of the corner, and it whizzes away. It's really nice. Really surprised at how little grip there is out here, though. That's a kind of a shocker. It might have something to do with like whatever tire shine they put on these tires, but it really had zero traction throughout everything, which is fine.
We like that. So coming through again, just leaning on the accelerator pedal gets this thing out of a corner. Amazing. It feels so natural. And this is in stark contrast to older BMW electrics like the i4, i7, and even iX that kind of felt, in my opinion, a little bit cumbersome, a little bit sharp on the throttle inputs, and not totally well sorted. Whereas here, man, totally dialed in, feels awesome. One thing we've got to do though is not necessarily slide it, but even with the dynamic traction control setting, the car is a little bit ESP intervention-y, and obviously we're going through a city, so we won't do it here, but it is nice just to have the raw sense of what the car will do. So we'll still play around with it a little bit more when we get out of this city environment, but the initial impression, other than the extreme lack of grip, which probably has more to do with road conditions than the actual tire, we do have to see exactly what tire we're on, is we're in like the most beautiful place on the planet, and the car drives really well. I think that's, you know, to boil down the summary, steering feedback insanely precise for this class of vehicle. Accelerator pedal has all that crazy sharpness that I hated from older BMWs tuned out of it. And the brakes feel very confidence inspiring. It's hard to hold it at a threshold brake because you'll just feel ABS hits coming in. But when ESP does kick in, it's smooth, it's not jarring. It just is like, holy smokes, BMW is back. I actually drove an E39 M5 to the airport to come here, which in my opinion is maybe best car of all time, best super sedan of all time for sure. And you know, kind of went through that, driving that car to the airport, because you know what BMW can engineer from a driving standpoint. That is an amazing vehicle, and I have many videos on, you know, ripping that around the track of recent on some other channels. This is an X3 that doesn't drive like the E39 M5, but at least I can feel the DNA through it. It's really a wonderful driving character, just in terms of how the torque split works, and that whole Heart of Joy thing doesn't seem to be just marketing speech. It actually is doing exactly what I want the car to do, and it felt really nice. So we'll play around with that a little bit more, and we're definitely going to have this out on track. My main focus in this video is not on performance driving character. It almost matters zero for an iX3. But I'm at least very thrilled for future Neue Klasse vehicles. Like BMW is going to have M stuff. They're going to have a i3. We know there's going to be a bunch of other models coming. It seems like the basis for this architecture can support all the way to a performance enthusiast model if BMW chooses to build such a thing. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to the chassis engineers on this car. Truly, this is clearly the benchmark now for chassis tuning in this segment of vehicle. Really amazing. Okay, we found ourselves on a little bit more of a dynamic mountain road now. We have DSC dialed all the way off as God intended, and it still does a little bit of power limitation coming out of corners based on steering angle. So BMWs will do this thing where when the wheels turn like this, I'm going to floor it, it holds back, I go straight on the wheel, and then it gives me everything. And it's feels a little bit like it's doing brake pace torque vectoring based on steering angle, which makes sense. I mean, it holds the line really well, which is great, and the grip levels have massively improved. And it's nowhere near as bad as like i4 or iX, where they genuinely give you like 60% of power with any steering lock on the wheel and then open up. This feels good. It just feels like it's trying to do torque transfer through brakes, which it is, so I guess that's appropriate. It just is holding back the actual acceleration of the car, and that might be the better option than just getting a wheel flare on the inside, which would be a very unpremium feeling in a German sporty SUV. So I guess I'm okay with the compromise, but I would love a mechanical, you know, torque vectoring situation on the rear axle, which would make this so much better. Forgive the sloshiness from my bag in the rear, which you might hear, but man, it definitely gets out of corners just fine, and it's going to give everyone what they're looking for in a back road, but it absolutely leaves a lot of room for a sportier variant at some point down the line, which they could really dial this thing up. You can tell that the entire platform can handle way more than what they're throwing at it right now. But even with this sort of, again, long-range all-wheel drive spec, if you will, it feels very composed. It doesn't complain. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. And even with DSC off, it doesn't feel particularly slidey or drifty or scary or anything weird. It just feels like a really nice cohesive package to drive. And here we are right on the limit with the truck coming towards us, but that's okay.
Tim has to go home to see his family at some point. And does this guy see us? Yes, thank you very much. Last corner, just full throttle matted. You can see the power gauge unwind as the steering wheel comes straight. My foot was to the floor the whole time. That fundamentally pisses me off. I don't understand that. When you request 100% throttle application, do that. That just means one thing, especially with DSC off. If I had all the traction control systems on, I could understand. So that is what I'm talking about, where they leave room for sporty variants. But man, it's fun to drive. It's nice. It's very well composed, and it's so much more of a high quality experience than I was expecting BMW to do for an X3, let alone the normal standard X3. No special M, this, that, or the other. Great job, again, to their driving dynamics team, because it feels like you can just pound on this thing all day, and it's not scary, it's nice, it feels so relaxing. Actually, the faster you drive it, the more relaxing it gets from my perspective. So shout out to them, and we've got way more to do in this video, so let's ignore performance driving on the road for now. We'll get ourselves to the track, do that whole thing there, and then I think Tim and I are going to try and snag a quick DC fast charging session on the way back. I've already scoped out a charger to see how that goes. Guys, I'm doing the ultimate stress test for the driver assistance system. Keep in mind that, you know, Tesla's autopilot actually does not work that well in Europe and won't do sharp turns. So, you know, you can't really compare to FSD at the moment in this market. In the US, yeah, of course a Tesla could do this, but holy smokes, it's doing this sharp road with driving assistance. Now, it is not hands-free, it's a capacitive wheel that it's asking me to touch, and here we have some sharp corners with my hands on the capacitive wheel, letting it, you know, feed through. Look at it doing all these turns. It's not taking the appropriate racing line. You wouldn't expect it to, but it feels very confident going through this. Tim, what's your impression from the passenger seat?
Yeah, it feels super smooth. I think it's locked in. It's doing really well.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with it, and that was a surprise. I didn't expect it to do that well. I'm sure we'll find a corner that's a little too much for it, and we've got some crazy corners coming up here. So we'll do a couple more 2-3 corners, but it's slowing down to the speed limit. What's weird is I can't find a way to have it go to a speed limit offset with Driving Assistant Pro. The settings are technically in there, but it is grayed out when you want to use their top system. It kind of forces you to drive the speed limit. Whoa, I had to put in some steering input there. So maybe not totally perfect, but still way more impressive than you would need for a highway system. So that's great. Shout out to BMW's chassis guys. Chassis guys, what am I talking about? They're ADAS guy. We have found the Tesla supercharger here. I've got the car preconditioned, and it's a 400 volt charger. So let's see what happens when we do that. Pop it into reverse, test that rear camera out. So this is always important when backing into charging spaces, is can you do it just from the camera? And I don't really like how it moves when I change the steering wheel angle. You can see the fisheye pulls a little bit differently, but okay, it works as long as I can get the car in there without hitting anything. Whoa, that camera angle view tripped me out a little bit. We'll hit park, and we've got curb view. This is interesting. So that's to help you not curve the wheels. We have standard, panorama, more. You could conduct your own cinema in here. Oh, we're cleaning the cameras. How cool is that? What else can we clean? Front and rear. Oh, nice. So that's great. We've got the trailer view. Reverse emergency braking function. Deactivate when a trailer is hitched. That's popped up in trailer mode. Interesting. So, okay, we're here. Battery should be nice and warm. Let's take a look if I go to the charging menu by going to... what? Do you have to go here and then charging? Yeah, this would get figured out. So we're good. We've been driving all day, dude, and we're still at 62%.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And we haven't been driving it easy either.
That's true. We've been ripping on it, but we've had a lot of regen as well, which has helped. But man, no question this has a ton of range. Almost 1,000 kilometers after our driving. To be fair, we just came down a mountain. So there's supposed to be some sort of smart flap in this thing. First of all, I'm going to keep climate on. So that's how you do it there. There's no dog mode. There's no keep climate function, really. This is just 30 minutes. That's the most it'll do. So I'll open up the door.
we'll activate the supercharger over here, and you can see this is one of the ones with the screen, 54 euro cents per month. And I thought this was supposed to be smart and like auto open. There's something all about AI charge port door. Yeah, maybe if you close the driver door, but clearly it's not doing any AI charge port stuff because, again, I didn't navigate to the charger in the car. I just manually preconditioned. It probably doesn't know we're at a charger. So with that said, we'll open this up here. And I'm really curious to hear the noises it makes from a contactor perspective as it goes into 400 volt mode. I also want to pull up the M screen in there to see what voltage it's actually showing when it's charging at low voltage. Because again, those are the V3 supercharger cabinets over there with V4 dispensers. And this car is a high voltage car. So let's see how this process goes. And in we go on the CCS2 handle. This is how the Tesla handles look over here in Europe. I will activate the supercharger in my app. Tesla makes it very easy for folks that are traveling to different markets to activate. I wish I could say the same about all charging operators supporting foreigners who travel through, both in the US and Europe and China. And yep, so let me get this activated and we'll take a look at some of the screens. You can see it says it's waiting for manual authorization or manual authentication and a big 62% on that display. That's really nice. I've just activated the charging session and standing close to the car to hear if there's any contactor noise. Establishing charging readiness. Interesting, it shows an 80% limit there now. Wow, no contactor noise, no ka-chunks, no nothing. And it did go into split pack. And you can see here it's charging. 145 kilowatts, 170, 164, 160. So it shot up and then it's coming down a bit. So interesting. So 150 kilowatts, still at 62%. It's amazing. That's very good. Very promising charging curve here. And keep in mind, we don't really have the opportunity to drain it all the way out. So I just wanted to see what it was like on a 400 volt charging station. If we pop in here, oh, we can see this screen still comes, which is great. Tells you the time it'll get to 80% versus 100. Some more information here about the energy coming in, and it's showing 143 max on the car. So the car is getting everything it wants. This is a great way to determine if the charging station is limiting you or if the car is limiting you. So at least here, there's no downside for using a Tesla supercharging station. I would say this is a kind of a bummer though, that we plugged in and then instantly it just came right down on the charging performance side. You can see we've charged 2.7 kilowatt hours, which equates 23 kilometers of range. I think that's guessometer range. And there's some settings here that I can come to, and that's just the normal typical charging menu that we're in at the moment. And we have heating power high for stuff, and pretty cool. Love to see all that. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to go to the M specific mode. If I go here to M apps, M cockpit, go to this one right here. Yeah, you can see now we're at 391 volts. We're in split pack. So you can basically double that, and that will show you what the normal operating voltage of the car is. But here in split pack, you're right down there at just under 400 volts at 66% or so. Also great information up here on the panoramic display. Shows kilowatts, which are really dropping off hard. It shows range and 80% and 100% time. A really nice use of this panoramic display while charging. And then you can do whatever you want on the screen and you can still reference all that data. I love how BMW integrated this whole top screen, and I love the data they let you have in the car as well. This is super well done. We'll have to do more charge testing later on because the way this thing keeps coming off power is a little bit concerning. But again, I'm pretty sure that's what the car is requesting, and we were preconditioned, so it is what it is. We're only just a few minutes in here at 69%, and it's fell off a cliff massively down to 82 kilowatts now, 84. So I've just never seen, I don't know why it's moving. The screen, the car just turned on, but I didn't touch anything. I just see no reason how just 10% ago we were doing 170 kilowatts, and now we're down to 80. I've never seen anything like that. It could be a cell issue, a chemistry issue, a temperature issue, but definitely doesn't seem like a fully dialed in massaged charging curve at first glance. And again, it could have something to do with the car charging in 400 volt mode. That might be where it's not totally well tuned or designed yet, but it just keeps, you know, of course you would expect a normal D rate as you gain state of charge, but I've just never seen a 100 kilowatt drop in a 10% window. Now this is interesting. The charging port keeps trying to close itself. And so when you close the car, it just kind of went down. And maybe it's designed to do that. See, look at that. It just opened up. Why would that change if it's DC charging? You would think it would just stay open all the time. But let's see what happens if I lock the car. I'll grab the key really quick, which is this phone right here. Charging start. So, okay, good app notification there about the charging has started. If I just walk away with the key in my hand, there we go. It locks, and the charge port stayed open that time. But it definitely, oh no, it's closing again. But it didn't close all the way. So maybe it's supposed to do that for some reason. That could be as designed. That could be part of that AI charging port BS that they kept talking about. Don't know. All right, so we have DC charged some period of time got some photos and some other stuff. Walking up to the car, the screens are actually off. So there is a setting, just unlocked there. There is a setting where when you open the door, climate control will start. I turned that on, so climate control is going right now. We're at 74%, doing 65 kilowatts. That seems, you know, unimpressive, but not bad. Just not as good as I was hoping based off the rest of the experience. Now, the charging performance should be the same in 400 volt mode as it is in 800 volt mode once you come off of the max charging rate, which it can do. So again, maybe this will be the indication that it will do in any of the modes here. And that's just a cell issue. So we pulled it out, the bottom flap went, and I need to double check to see if this car is shipping with NACS in the US. At least it's a fast and quiet charge port, no complaints there. So yeah, we got to check to see what port this car is coming with, but the typical V4, you can't lock the damn cables in it. This is the second time we've had a new car on this channel, and I can't get the cable to lock in. There we go. Nice. All right, well, that was fun. Let's keep rolling. Well, guys, driving the iX3 was just freaking awesome. It is a perfectly tuned car in the sense that there's a sporting edge, a sporting character underneath, but comfortable enough to do the daily drive, and I would say even soft enough to be considered almost a luxury suspension feel. It was so cool to experience the one-pedal driving and just that imperceptibility when you come to a stop. Absolutely insane driving experience. So thanks for joining me behind the wheel. Now we've got to go talk to some of the folks who have made this car possible. We're going to interview the battery cell guys, the battery architecture guys. So that would be like charging performance stuff, chassis performance, and others. It's going to be really cool. These could have been individual videos that would have honestly made great content, but I just wanted to put all the iX3 stuff in this one piece of content for you. So it'll be chapterized, but just join us as we nerd out with some of the cool people who made this happen. Philip, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
It's a pleasure.
So for those of you at home, Philip is responsible for the high voltage battery in the iX3. And as you know, we do a lot of range and charging and, you know, challenges surrounding the battery pack. So I was hoping you could give us a little bit of insight into, first of all, some of the cool technology in the battery from the construction of it, because you're going cell to pack, pack to vehicle, which is really cool. And then also we have a can over here, one of the round cells that you're using.
Yeah, definitely.
So many questions. So why don't we talk first about the construction of the entire system from a hardware standpoint?
So you mean from the outside. So I would start with the cell maybe, but that makes more sense.
Sure. I mean, we can get right into it.
Let's go from the end, because that's the most important thing about our battery.
Love it.
So as you said, I'm the project lead for that high voltage battery, and we are really proud of that overall concept. So I'm really happy that I can show you some details about it. I hope I can answer all questions whenever I'm allowed to. This is our Gen 6 battery cell. It has a diameter of 46 millimeters, 95 millimeters of height. And it's full of our BMW knowledge about battery cells. So we started gaining that in 2008 already with the Project I. I don't know if you remember the i3.
The old 1 series. Well, you had, wasn't there Mini E, then 1 Series, then i3?
There were, exactly. We have different generations. That's why we are already in the 6th generation. That's why it's called Gen 6. So we have a lot of knowledge about that. Started with doing that in 2008. And in 2012, we founded our battery cell competence center. And that's where we combined all experts that we have in terms of batteries, who look at current trends, what's best for our customers, what different geometries do you have, cylindrical cells, prismatic cells, pouch cells, what's the best chemistry that I can use, what other trends occur, what's happening, what's going on. So those people are always constantly looking at what's best for our customers, what's on the market.
And that building that everyone's in, is that in Munich?
Yeah, it's in the middle of Munich, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're near HQ, you can bounce ideas back and forth with the production team.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sitting there, I'm sitting in our innovation center, but it's really nearby. So we're really close together and closely looking at those things.
Okay.
And when we started doing the Neue Klasse project, we also said, okay, we want to start with a blank sheet of paper and do something new, because it's the Neue Klasse and the new Klasse. And what came out with that blank sheet of paper was that battery cell. So we looked at all different requirements that we have in terms of longevity, in terms of range, in terms of charging, in terms of safety. So we always tried to find the best for our customers, and that's what came out. And that battery cell has a 20% increased energy density in comparison to the predecessors.
And you were using prismatic cells in Gen 5, so that's what you would find in i4, i5, i7, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you've gone for the cylindrical cell. So I've always wanted BMW to go cylindrical cell, I guess for a couple reasons. Cooling, I would think, because now you're doing the water jacket cooling, and we'll get into all of this, but also crash performance. The cells can deform a little bit. So what swayed the decision to go cylindrical cells?
Yeah, there were different reasons. One of the biggest reasons, and that would answer your first question that I still haven't answered, is that we want to integrate the battery perfectly into the car. And if you want to do that, and if you have the opportunity to do that, then it's really, really good if you do this cell-to-pack approach that we are using, which means that we just stack the cells next to each other. And if you just stack the cells next to each other and make rows and rows and rows of cells, so that you have the full battery filled with those cells, and that's our so-called cell-to-pack approach, you have a lot of advantages. And the overall advantages in comparison to Gen 5, that we were able to put in more battery cells and therefore more energy into our battery pack. In total, we reached 108.7 kilowatt hours of usable battery energy.
Which is a ton.
Which is a lot, yeah. We're really proud of that, and it's amazing how much energy we put into that battery, and that was possible due to that cell-to-pack approach, because we didn't have to look at other circumstances, so we could really put the battery in the car like we want to, so make it more energy optimal for our customers.
So question for you, and I want to get back to the cells. So you know when you're not really using the module approach. So you're really lining the cells, and most are wired, I guess, in series rather than in parallel. Is it like a 2 parallel or a 1 parallel cell?
I'm not talking about those details.
We can do the math. And but when you go to a 400 volt charger, you still have to split pack. You go into a 400 volt mode.
You can do that, yeah.
So without modules, how do you do that?
I mean, it's done in our Energy Master. Yeah? The Energy Master is the intelligence that sits on top of the battery. So you have the overall battery underneath the car, and then under the rear seats we have the Energy Master, which is our intelligence, all diagnosis functions, safety features, the battery intelligence, the low voltage and high voltage power supply, all that runs in that Energy Master. And also this switching thing is inside of the Energy Master, so you can easily switch between that, and then you have basically a virtual two-pack.
Right.
2 packs that you can use.
And I tried that yesterday, and it worked really well. And
you went charging.
I went to a supercharger specifically because they're low voltage.
Okay.
And I just thought even the noise switching, it was silent. And other cars, chunks, all these things. This was just switched. It was great.
That's amazing.
It was really nice work on this one.
Cool, yeah.
So back to the cell itself. Going from a module approach to now just cells and strings. The topic of serviceability and repair comes up. But I want to ask you a question, maybe tangentially. My understanding is as a battery pack ages into the future and a module happens to fail, you can put a new module in, but then you have the problem of stronger cells and weaker cells in one pack. And sometimes it works for 6 months or 1 year, but then they sway because you have brand new cells and old cells.
Yeah.
Is that a problem? And how do you repair a battery pack like this?
I mean, we're here to talk about our BMW iX3, and I think that with our approach, we have a really Yeah, we did a different way than before. And as I told you, there are differences to Gen 5. Yeah, of course, we have prismatic cells before. Now we have round cells. We've had modules before. Now we don't have module cell to pack approach. Due to that, really high energy density, no structural parts in between, nothing that does not contain any energy, which is pretty cool. And you're talking about serviceability. How can we service that battery? Yeah, of course, those cells, there are plenty of cells inside. But the good thing is that we work really closely with our partners, so they do everything to guarantee that every single cell is perfect. So they really do a CT scanning or X-ray scanning to find out if there's something inside of the cell, so that you never have the problem that you even have to change the cell. And if we look into our field data of Gen 5, then we see that in the current models, the problems are not that cells are failing. The problems are that that electronics might have a problem. And that's the good thing about our Energy Master. As I told you, it sits underneath the rear seat. So if you want to change it, if you want to exchange a part that broke down maybe after, I don't know, 10 years or something, then you can just take out the rear seat and exchange it, put it back on, and you don't even have to take the whole battery down. And in Gen 5, and that's the third biggest difference, in Gen 5 the whole battery intelligence was inside of the battery pack. So if you wanted to change it, you had to take down the whole battery, open it, exchange the parts, close it again, make it sealed, and then put it underneath the car. And that's a big advantage, and therefore we went for that approach.
And I totally agree with your approach, by the way. I agree that even in my, you have all the field data, but cells don't really fail. Very rarely. It happens, but very rarely. It's always contactor switch, high voltage board, and having that easily serviceable is great. So I think you went the correct approach here, and you can get so much more energy density in there. So tell us about the cell. It's 4695 in shape, but that doesn't tell us anything about what's inside. So it's an NMC chemistry.
NMC.
And what was the design goal of the chemistry in here, and what are its characteristics?
In total, we worked really closely with our partners together.
Can you say who did the cell?
Yeah, we can. We work with EVE and we work with CATL.
Nice.
Yeah, two big players. We work with them really closely to develop the cell together, and together with the colleagues that I told you about from our battery cell competence center. So they looked at the cell, and as I said, we try to optimize for perfect energy. We call it also design to energy cell. Yeah, it's designed that you have a lot of energy inside, and at the same time you have the perfect safety for our customers and the longevity that you're used to from your BMW. And of course, and which is also pretty amazing charging. Yeah, with those 400 kilowatts that we can get and 372 kilometers in 10 minutes. In miles, it's like 200. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like 175 because the EPA cycle is also different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like this.
Yeah.
So it's amazing because you can get that just within 10 minutes, and that's also part of the battery, that you make it cooled so well that you can always get the perfect energy and a lot of energy inside when you charge it.
Yeah, we do this road trip test with every electric car where we start at 10% state of charge, charge for 15 minutes, and then see how far on the highway we can go afterwards.
But
so
you always use the same charges to make it comparable?
We always use a 400 kilowatt charger. We use the same road. We do a loop style test to counteract wind and elevation, and we run a constant speed so every car is as close as possible. This should be almost at the top because you're going to onboard so much energy in 15 minutes, and the car is relatively efficient from my driving.
True.
So the cell itself, you're recommending an 80% daily charge limit for it, but you can, of course, full charge.
Always. Yeah.
What's your prediction in longevity? You mentioned good longevity. I mean, cells last so much longer than people think in the real world.
Definitely, yeah.
I have an early first generation i3 with a ton of miles. It's still fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been full charged a bunch
crazy.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should last a while.
Yeah, exactly. It will last a while. There are still many restrictions, and people are afraid of driving battery electric vehicles, but I think that's not a deal at all. It's just a normal use that you use that you are used from our BMWs. So it's a completely normal lifetime that you can estimate. Nothing less. No, just because you have a BEV, just because you have a battery vehicle, it's not like I can use it less years. It's the very same and comparable to a combustion engine.
And one final point on the cell characteristics. We know the discharge capacity, of course, which is 108.7 kilowatt hours. Charging performance, 400 kilowatts as a system total. we didn't get to see the curve today. We'll of course test it when we get the car in the future,
Yeah.
but it seems to hold 400 kilowatts. I think we were discussing yesterday, maybe to 20% or so, and there's a little few minute boost period. What's your prediction for like a 10 to 80% charge, and what do you think it's doing around 50% state of charge?
You mean how much energy is still inside?
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly.
Yeah.
I can tell you exactly. We have to ask our charging expert. He can tell you more about
Yeah,
that later.
that sounds good.
Yeah, maybe you talk to Leonard.
Yeah, we should talk to Leonard. That would be
Yeah.
great. From what I can tell, it's like 10 to 80 in 21 or 22 minutes is the stated, but I heard it should be a little bit faster. So yeah, could be pretty good. Cooling wise, each cell is encased in a jacket, and you have chilled capacity, of course, and heating capacity. I know you're not necessarily in that department, but it is shared with the rest of the drivetrain, right?
Of course.
Cool. Anything else you want to share about the cell? It's pretty cool. It's a big can.
Yeah, it's the cell itself is pretty amazing, but also like how we integrate it into the car is amazing. I told you this cell to pack approach and pack to open body. That's also something new for us. So we are not using any floor plate of the car. We just mount the battery from underneath,
Which is so cool.
which is it's amazing. Yeah.
I wish they would put the seats on the battery first and then put the whole thing in. That would be neat.
Yeah, I thought about the same, but then probably it's more space that you need to put it inside. And so no, I think it's perfect because then you can also put the carpet. I mean, the floor has to be there, so, and you want to mount maybe some cables. Yeah, all the what's it called? The cable harness is also mounted on top of the battery, so it's easier to do it this way, and that's how we do it. And it's perfectly integrated into the car. So if you're sitting in the car and wouldn't have a battery underneath, you would basically see the street.
Right.
So it's really closing it. So it's really a highly integrated part of the car, and there you see how much we try to understand what's best for our overall vehicle concept.
Yeah, a total structural battery, fully integrated. That's something we haven't seen much of. Only a few brands have been daring enough to do it. This car is really cool. I have one last question for you, which is, I know you're not discussing future product at all. However, when there will be, either more or less capacity versions of this battery without modules, theoretically, how would you adjust the energy capacity?
It's a perfect question because it's also one of the big advantages of our battery concept. So what we can do is, I told you that we take those cells, and you were also talking about cooling. So we put those cells and we put cooling and all that stuff together. So you have many cells next to each other, and then row by row by row by row. And then you can do whatever you want. You can fill the battery completely, or you can maybe leave out some battery cells, and with that you can generate different energy levels inside of your battery. So you can definitely adapt it to different approaches that you want to have. And what's also pretty cool is that our battery concept is completely capable for everything that's coming maybe in the future. Yeah, you're right, we're not talking about future projects, but we might be able to use it also for other things. For example, the whole mounting points on the car, and I'm always looking at the car because it looks so nicely over there. The mounting points on the car are the very same, whatever battery you want to use, and also the Energy Master is perfectly fine to use it for every other battery that you want to use.
So the Energy Master can handle a wide range of voltages based off of the arrangement of the cells.
Exactly, he can arrange everything, he can handle everything, or it can handle everything, because it always sits on top, and then it's perfectly adapted for every future models that might be coming.
Seems like a good idea, but for me, I'll take the big battery, the 108.7.
Always.
That's the one to have with 400 kilowatt charging. Philip, thank you so much for the information, and congratulations.
You're welcome.
On
Thank
really
you very much.
Great innovation here. I
Thank you very much.
love the system integration.
It goes to the whole BMW team. Yeah, we did a lot of work there, and we're proud of that. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's great, and our viewers will love it as well. I can't wait to drive it and test it and do the charging and range stuff.
I also can't wait to drive it. I will get mine in, I think, 2 weeks or something.
Oh,
I'm really
amazing.
looking forward, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, well, thank you guys. That was Philip, and that's the new BMW iX3 battery cell.
Thank you.
Friends, you join me with Leonard. Welcome to the channel.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And Leonard is responsible for the charging and discharging topics on the BMW iX3, because this can support obviously AC and DC charging, but also AC and DC discharging out of the port. So it's really cool, and it might be the first car that I've seen that has so many charging and discharging options for bidirectional or vehicle to home and DC fast charging. So let's run around to the charging port over here, and maybe we can discuss all of these topics with you.
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful. The first thing I have to ask you was, before we get into anything, yesterday, I don't know if the car's unlocked or not.
It's actually locked, unfortunately.
Yesterday I was charging this at a DC fast charger, and the port was all the way open. And I plugged in, and then when I walked away, it looked like the port closed.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of this?
So actually, we are using the port also as a weather protection. So we're going to weather protection position here. So not so much for sunlight, but also for rain, for snow, for ice. If you like have icy rain, this is really the worst thing that can happen. So if you have ice in here, of course, it's hard to remove your charger. If you have snow in the charging plugs, you can have all different scenarios here. So we're using the flap as a weather protection.
It's sort of a built-in cover. At first, I thought it was a software bug. I thought like, oh, it's closing on the port, but no, it was intentional.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really a cool idea. And, you know, it's shading the connector. You've heard of the wet towel trick. He does not recommend the wet towel trick. But Leonard also mentioned that it could shade the connector a little bit, which might help a tiny bit in the sunlight. Tell us about AC charging capability. So in Europe, you offer a couple different versions, right?
Yeah, so we are starting with the 11 kilowatt as a standard equipment here. So we have 11 kilowatt AC charging, and we have the charging professional option. So with a rating of 22 kilowatt in Europe. So this will be for US, it will be a 15.4 kilowatt charging performance for AC charging.
Which is really interesting because in the US, 11 kilowatt will be the standard, so 48 amp. And then you're going to offer the professional, which we've got to double confirm everything, but it sounds like it'll be 15.4 kilowatt, which is 64 amp as the upgraded onboard charger, which is an interesting choice. Never seen this before.
So yeah, so this will be the AC charging option, the charging professional. You already mentioned the discharging. So with the charging professional, you also get the discharging option. So this means you can use an adapter for having a power socket here. And we also have the multifunction charger where you can connect a power strip with having 3 sockets. So and then you can discharge also 3.6 kilowatt here from your car.
Which is really cool.
Some nice glamping or whatever. I think you have plenty of ideas on your mind now.
Yeah, charging other cars, things like this. We'll be stress testing it. What happens, you know, because you're going to offer, you know, with the mobile connector, the power strip option.
Yeah.
What happens when you plug so much into it, you pull more than 3.6 kilowatts?
So we will control, of course, that we don't go into overcurrent situations. So in case it gets risky, we will switch off. So we are doing the power control here to don't have any overcurrent situation.
Makes sense.
Especially if you start with extension cords and everything that's not recommended and draw very high currents, then we switch off at critical point, of course.
Yep, very good. The charging at home options are interesting because you're offering just a normal wall box 48 amp from BMW. It's already on sale, but you will also offer a DC wall box for home.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a low power DC charging, which is 19.2 kilowatts, bypassing the onboard charger, directly charging the high voltage battery. So it's a high voltage small charger. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so actually with the Gen 6 architecture, that's a brand new feature. So we will have the DC bidirectional charging. So and also we bring the use cases like vehicle to home, vehicle to grid with this. So we have a DC wallbox, the BMW wallbox Professional, rated at 19.2 kilowatt in US. So and this will be able, of course, to discharge at 19.2 kilowatt and power your home appliances, heat, air conditioning, everything. So making very powerful electric storage system at home. So and well, this is kind of a very, very big battery.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Tell me about that because so you're going to be using the NACS cable on this car, right?
Yeah.
So
we will launch with the NACS connector. Also, the US wallbox will of course be equipped with the NACS connector.
And so charging at home will be the same as someone plugging in their AC NACS connector. It will look the same. It'll feel the same. It will just be doing direct current.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is other systems, at least in the US, that offer DC bidirectional, actually still AC charge the car and then switch to DC for discharge. In this case, just to clarify for the audience, it's DC both ways.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of cool because then you're actually taking some of the stress off the onboard charger of the car, you put it in the unit, and it's just DC charging. But now you also mentioned, and I didn't fully understand this because you gave a great presentation yesterday to all the journalists, so thank you for this. There's a 3.6 kilowatt emergency function for the US. What's that all about?
So if you're having not the possibility, or if you already have a charger at home and don't want to buy a new DC wallbox, you get a multifunction charger in the US with the car.
Is that the cable, the connector that comes with it?
Yeah, this is the connector box, and you can buy additional adapters, so like the power strip, so this was the 3 sockets, and you can also buy the vehicle to home extension. So, and then you will use the onboard charger here, and you will feed back 3.6 kilowatt. So, and have this emergency use case for at least keeping your lights and your fridge on. So will be limited to the 3.6 kilowatt discharging power of the onboard charger.
Yeah.
But you have a minimum entry solution for this emergency blackout.
It's kind of cool, and that can go directly into the house then. You install something on that side. So that we definitely have to play around with, because that's a unique feature that I haven't seen before. But of course, now high-power DC charging is becoming much more common in the US. Our infrastructure has gotten much better. We now have, for example, plentiful ABB A400s and Alpitronic Hyper 400s all across the US. What is the DC fast charging capabilities of this vehicle?
So we'll have here 400 kilowatt of DC charging power, so using the 800 volt architecture. So we'll have opportunity to really charge the car at many public chargers, so we don't need any branded chargers or anything, so we can see it at many charge points already in Europe, and also a rising number in US. So, and we have the 400 kilowatt. For EPA we don't have a rating yet, but for WLTP range it will be equal to 372 kilometers in 10 minutes, so very, very fast charging, and also making this car for long distance travel, it's the same level as the petrol fueled as a conventional car. So it's really, really fast driving from A to B for long distance travel, so you don't have any hassle with charging, with long charging stop, and also with the range you don't need as many charging stops.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm most excited about with this car, is the road trip performance.
Yeah.
Because if you get to a charger at very low state of charge, which is the proper way to drive, and you can even in the navigation set minimum arrivals to charging stations, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You can charge 400 kilowatts, and I think we mentioned somewhere around 20-25% it will hold about 400 kilowatts.
So it's around about 3 minutes, a little bit over 3 minutes when you start charging, that will run at the peak charging performance, and then you get into the limits of the cell, of course, so have a little degradation here. But after like 2.5 minutes you have like 100 kilometer recharge range already, so it's very, very fast in comparison to 400 volt systems, so making it a very good travel car. And when we discussed, or when we started with the Gen 6 architecture, we said we want to drive further and we want to charge faster, and that's really what is making this car so great.
Yeah, and what's so impressive is the charging performance is still really high considering it's such an energy dense cell. I mean, you really have huge energy density here and massive peak charging. And the curve is okay. I mean, from 10 to 80, it's like just over 20 minutes, which, considering you have 108.7 kilowatt hours of usable capacity, really nice balance there. That's going to be a great road tripping car. In terms of, you've obviously driven the car and tested it.
Yeah.
A lot of automakers we run into will say, okay, you can get, whatever, 350 kilowatt charging, 400 kilowatt charging. It does great on the first stop. And then we drive to the next stop and it's overheated and it's not repeatable. What's the impression if we take this on a really long trip and we drive and charge and drive and charge? How thermally can it handle the fast charging?
So, of course, what you've already seen in the e-routing is we also have a preconditioning feature in here. So because multiple charging stops is actually always a thermal stress for the system, because battery gets really hot and has to be cooled down again for the repeated charging. So, but we're going to use our preconditioning here to get the temperature back to the sweet spot. And also we consider what if you have like a planned route and have rated chargers, so we will exactly condition the battery for the power rating of the charger. So if you only have a 200 kilowatt charger on your road, then we will not cool down as much as we need or heat up as much as we need to have the sweet spot. So we will just adjust the temperature to the 200 kilowatt charger rating.
Love to hear that. That's music to my ears, because then there's no wasted efficiency in this case. The last question that I have for you is something we've experienced in Gen 5 BMWs, where after I drove an i7 across the country last year, for example, and on the first maybe 1,000 miles, I was getting 205 kilowatt charging, 205. Then it started to come down, and there was some sort of DC counter that kicked in and limited charging performance. Is that in this car?
So of course we need at some point control over exceeding like the use. So especially also with the discharging use case. So like we have like a virtual mileage for those cars.
Okay.
If you like discharge the car a lot, then your mileage actually rises a little bit. So, and it's also something you have to consider if your car is not only a car to drive, but also power bank and energy storage system at home. So this means, of course, we control aging to make it for customer not feelable that much. So make it in the background. So, but we have a little degradation algorithm if we are over exceeding our limits too much. Then you might reach this, but well, I'm looking forward to your coast-to-coast trip or whatever you're gonna do if you really feel any degradation there.
So you're saying it's much better than even
Yes.
before. So probably something no one will ever see. And is it something you can earn back with AC charging? Like if you take a long DC trip and then you AC charge for a couple weeks, does that counter go away?
So actually AC charging or just waiting the time will make this counter go back.
Oh,
So
okay.
repeated AC charging definitely helps you.
Nice. So even if you buy a used one in a few years, you just AC charge it for a bit, then you don't have to worry. Great. Well, Leonard, I really appreciate all of the information. You are a hero to our audience and our viewers, and I really appreciate you joining for the YouTube channel.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for watching. Well, Roman, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining. I met you at Ascari, which is a great place to meet someone.
Yes.
Beautiful facility. And I learned that you are responsible for sort of the driving character of the car.
Yes.
What is your exact title and responsibility?
I'm responsible for integration and application of the driving dynamics.
So all the stuff I care about as a nerd, driving, that's all you.
Basically, yes, it's all suspension, the heart of joy, how it's tuned. Actually, basically everything, how the car drives.
Amazing. And I have to compliment you massively. The first thing
Thank
I
you.
said to you was how nice the car drove on the street.
Thanks.
At first, I thought the car had air suspension. I know it does not.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, you must be using a variable rate damper or a frequency response damper. And you said, no, it's just one setting. And it's the best setting.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of hard if you only get one suspension setting to work with. Of course, at the beginning, we thought, where do you want to put the car? How should it be driving? It's pretty easy if you have, for example, a basis setup, a sports suspension, and a variable damping control. You can cluster it really easy. With one suspension, it has to fit all the customers, and everybody has to be happy with it, so it can't be too sporty because it has to have that long commuting comfort for everyday driving. So it cannot be annoying at any time.
Yeah, and it isn't. There's a ton of compliance in there too.
Yes.
It feels really good.
Yes, and it also needs to be driving like a true BMW, so it needs to have a certain sportiness. And I mean, of course, electric cars have a certain weight. Yeah, so
of course.
you have to control that weight. And yeah, it was dedicated and hard work of the whole team. And everybody was really motivated to create a great BMW. And it's really nice to get the feedback that you loved it.
Yeah, it did, truly.
Because I know, of course, during the development process, you're going through some rough times also.
I'm sure.
And, you know, you question yourself, is it the right way we're doing?
Yeah.
And now finding out that you're happy about it, and I think the customers will be really happy with it, that's just so satisfying.
Yeah, it's unusual for BMW to do one suspension setup for a car.
Yes.
And so is there a reason? Was it cost, development time, or do you know exactly why?
I mean, with the new architecture, we had the once in a lifetime chance to start on a really blank piece of paper, which is totally unusual for an engineer, for a development engineer, because normally you're just creating something new based on something you already have.
Yeah, it's iterative changes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this time we really had a blank piece of paper. We knew some characteristics. Yeah, we knew some we knew it's going to be a BEV-only architecture. We knew what our target should be about, how it should drive. And then we sat together and thought, what do we really need to create that feeling? And it's not our philosophy to go all in all the time. You know, we want to use the technology we have to the best.
Yeah.
And so we said, and also there are some factors that you want to have a simple portfolio for your customers, because if you offer too much, I think they're slightly getting confused what they should choose. And
absolutely.
In the end, they end up with a product that's maybe not satisfying them because they didn't make the right cross at the right position.
Right, yeah, and I think this, you know, it is one suspension setup truly that spans quite a bit, because we drove it on rough roads. It's a lot of secondary impacts on the roads, and I thought it did a really nice job. Maybe slight boominess from the rear, but that's okay, because you still have pretty stiff bushings going on. Then, you know, the primary impacts, the speed bumps, all the other stuff, that was amazing. I mean, maybe the best passive suspension I've felt. And I always credit Lucid actually to having an amazing chassis and setup, but they have adaptive damper. You don't even have an adaptive damper. And it was so great. Then we took it to a racetrack, which was amazing. And you know, the car's soft, it moves, but it moves naturally. And you would expect, you know, a car that is quite high off the ground with a really soft suspension to kind of fall over and fall apart, but it really handled great.
Actually, you already mentioned it. It moves naturally. We try to create the most linear feeling as possible, because everything that's not linear doesn't feel good. At least that's our philosophy. And that's what our thought behind of all is. And so we always, I can't think of an English word, maybe.
What's the German word?
I'm hanging.
Yeah, it's okay. This is easy to cut out, no problem. Yeah.
Wie sagen wir immer? Sämigkeit. Was ist Sämigkeit? Was könnte man da sagen? It's like, it feels very controlled, it feels very damped, but it's never like, it never has any...
Like weird oscillations or jumps or anything.
So every too much oscillation is not good for traction, is not good for comfort. So it always needs to be smooth, but really tight.
And when you hit a bump, you hit it once and it's done.
Correct. When you go over a speed bump, for example, you know, some cars tend to be like womp, womp, womp.
Yeah, and you get a lot of rear end porpoise.
Correct.
This was really dialed in.
And that's how we create it. There's a lot of detail going on, for example, inside the damper to create it. Of course, it's only mechanical, but when you come from rebound to compression or from compression to rebound, there's a danger that you create a big oscillation peak. And you need to smoothen that out, for example. And there's certain ways to do it. And if you manage to do it by still having a lot of Sämigkeit, that's one key feature we try to achieve.
Well, so we know the suspension can handle quite a bit. Tell me a little bit about the wheel and tire packages, because for the most part, every iX3 I've seen is running a square setup of 255 around. I assume the Aero wheels might be a little bit narrower, or is everything 255?
No, we have 255 from the beginning already. You know, we start at a 20-inch diameter wheel. That's the base wheel, and that already has the 255 width. Also the 21 and the 22-inch tires. 22 are only available as a mixed setup, but on the front we always have 255.
Right, and then you go 275 in the rear.
Correct, and in the mixed setup we always have 275 on the rear in 21 and 22. 21 is also available, as you saw it on the road cars, as a square setup in 255. And basically that's also a feature how you can tune your driving, your car, from being a completely comfortable car and daily commuter to a bit more sporty. That's why we also offer the sports tires.
Right, and you're using
in Ascari.
Michelin Pilot Sport tire for that.
Yes.
And you also have a bunch of suppliers. That's not unusual for BMW.
No.
You need to make sure you have production capacity if a tire manufacturer drops down.
Completely correct.
Your choice on your car, what's the tire you're going for?
On an iX3?
Yeah, if you had to choose.
I'd take the Michelin,
Yeah,
to be honest,
so
because
sporty.
it's a great all-round tire. I mean, it's not a label A low rolling resistance tire because it's a sporty tire.
Right.
But it still gets you at, I think, 670 kilometers in WLTP.
Plenty.
Which is plenty, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm okay to do that compromise in a range for having a really good all-around tire. It's sporty, it's comfortable, and it's just, that's the tire I would choose personally for my style of driving.
Yeah, I'm with you, I think. Although I would probably do 275 square, which is not allowed, but then get the front end working a little more. Question for you on the Heart of Joy. This has been a real big topic for the Neue Klasse.
Yeah.
I imagine a ton of work went into it.
Yeah.
And someone even explained to me that you had to redevelop ABS for this system, where you essentially went through and coded everything from the ground up for Heart of Joy.
It's for the first time that we're doing it ourselves, even ABS tuning. And you can only get the full potential out of the Heart of Joy and driving dynamics if you're actually developing the whole package. And part of the package is ABS tuning. And ABS has been around forever.
Yeah, of course.
And it's always companies that have developed it, and the OEMs just buy it from them.
Right.
So it's a big step for an OEM to do it by themselves. And you have to learn some things from ground on. And yeah, it was a big challenge actually, but I think we managed it pretty good.
I think so as well. I mean, what's interesting is the pedal feels interesting because I assume it's a one box design.
Yeah, we have an IB, of course, yeah.
And so it's hard to threshold brake, but it's actually okay when it gets into ABS because you don't just lose all braking force.
No.
It held threshold braking even through ABS really well. We also did the high-speed lane change under braking, which the car felt really natural, and that's exactly where you could feel everything moving around on the car.
Yeah, that's why we showcase this maneuver, because you're fully in the controls, you're fully in the physical slip limit, and compared to other cars, we're really stable. I mean, of course you're not because you're fully in the slip limit, but it feels so safe and still predictable and still precise. And that's what I'm talking about. The full potential, you can only get it when you do it all yourself. And when you set the controls really, really early, like you saw it in the film yesterday, the sooner you control the car, the less high the controls have to be, and the less you feel them.
I mean, if you can get into yaw damping immediately, and you know exactly what's coming, you no longer get that weird hit on an ESP, which always upsets the car.
Yes,
and this had none of that, and that's what I was going to commend you, because we drove them on some back roads, and we shredded it to Ascari, and I drove. It's not meant to be a race car; it's not a track car; it's an iX3. But you invited me here, so I was ripping it, and so I kept it in DSC on in sport mode. First of all, sport mode seemed to shift some more power to the rear, which was great. And what was really nice was, even if just rolling into a corner, just like, getting the front tire working, getting the car moving a little bit, leaning on the accelerator out of a corner, the way that the car handled the stability control was the opposite of jerky. It was so smooth. And I can think of maybe only a handful of times where you don't have like a weird slip and then that comes in, and this was just holding me right there the whole time. It was really magical.
Yeah, there's so much going on. I mean, the key feature is to be always on point, to have no time delays, because latencies create uncertainty, and then they create strange situations.
Totally. And I've shown that before. Sometimes I'll rip a wheel on a car, and then a good 1 second later it'll go burp, 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 burp.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So first of all, we were with all components, we're looking to maximum reduce latencies. Regarding the controls, but also the mechanical parts, like when you do a steering input, the front axle turns, the front axle reacts and transfers something to the rear axle, and then the rear axle reacts.
Yeah.
This has always to be with the minimum latencies or with no latencies at all to feel really precise and predictable, and that creates a lot of trust. Then
Totally.
on the mountain roads you drove and what you described, for example, you're driving to a turn and you turn in, you steer in the turn, and you realize, the turn gets narrower because I know there's some turns that actually get really narrow.
The
at
decreasing
the end.
radius ones, yeah.
And then you turn in more, and you want the front axle to lead you, to guide you in the turn more, and you want to feel that the front axle is capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what the car does. And the rear axle follows just at the same time.
You know, I also drove it allegedly not program approved with DSC off a little bit just to see how that would go, full off. Really sent the power to the back, which was great.
Yes.
So what's, I mean, there is some enthusiast tuning in this car where you can slide it. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, all the guys working, or all the people working on the car are really car enthusiasts. And everyone had the mindset, we want to create a really cool BMW, a fun to drive BMW, but safe at the same time. So we used the opportunity to switch the behavior over the My modes, for one, and over the DSC. So when you go from personal to sport, as you described it, you get a little bit more rear axle biased distribution.
Yeah.
So you realize it when you're in the turn. You can, with your accelerator and with your brake pedal, you can make the rear end work with you.
Yeah.
That is the typical BMW style, I would say, like we know it from the older days.
And as you go DTC and then DSC, even more.
You shift it even more. And in personal, everything is more or less neutral, and everything is safe. And for daily driving, it's not, how do you say?
You don't even need to worry about it.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about it. It's just driving and the car does what it does. But if you want a little bit more excitement and a little bit more sporty drive, then you switch to sport, or you can increase that feeling by going to DTC or DSC off.
And I love that you still put that in there, because there's so many automakers now that don't let us have any fun with their cars, and then I've got to get up under there and pull wheel speed sensors and disable systems, and you just have a nice off button, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's really important to us.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, DSC these days doesn't have the controls don't have the same functions than in an old car. Yeah?
Of course.
So for somehow you always have to control electric cars. So
yeah, because you can get a big wheel flare and then abuse loads on the rest of the driveline.
For example,
They do weird stuff.
Yeah. So but we want to create that maximum mechanical feeling in every situation. And I'm happy that we are able to offer it by like it's actually the customer's choice how sporty he wants to have the car and how mechanical and fordernd is in English.
It's almost like raw feeling of the car.
Kind of a raw feeling. Yeah.
You know, the thing is that I noticed in older, like Gen 5 electric BMWs, we chatted about this yesterday a little bit. When I'm coming out of a corner with steering lock, even in normal X-Drive cars, I would feel this too. Sometimes I would really give it the beans coming out of a corner and it would bog. And then I'd come straight on the wheel and you'd wait till you hit a certain steering angle and there's full power. And this drove me insane. I cannot tell you how much I hated that. This had a massive improvement from the Gen 5 days to how this is tuned. You can tell at the absolute limit, there's a little bit in there in tight corners, but it also seems like on track, if you're really moving and you get the weight around, you can still have some more freedom with this.
Yes, of course we're learning and we're progressing over the generations. So we're trying, I mean, we're listening to our customers also, we're listening to what we feel we could improve. And of course, that's one point we thought we could maybe do a little bit better. The thing is, in the turn, we try to work on the slip limit, so not go over it, because otherwise the car would do something.
Yeah, you could have a big wheel flare up front and understeer off the road.
And we don't want to do that. So the customer should always have that predictable and safe feeling, even though if he's in DTC or whatever. But like creating a big difference from being in the turn and coming out of the turn, then all of a sudden you get more power. That's it doesn't feel natural, actually.
Yeah.
So we smoothened that out, and there
big
were
improvement.
a lot of enthusiasts that shaped this and really fine-tuned every function. And it's I mean, thinking about who worked on this product and how they worked on it, everyone was so motivated and so dedicated to achieve something great. And I think that's the reason why we're really proud now of this car, because we have the feeling we created something different.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the starting point for Neue Klasse, I cannot wait to see what comes over the next few years. Yeah, so congratulations to you and your team. I mean, I get to drive a lot of new cars, as you know, and this is certainly a highlight. And the thing is, I just feel like BMW is so back. The dynamics, the way that this thing drives, it drives how a BMW should drive. It's a rear bias system. It's enjoyable, but still 99% of the time, it's a comfortable daily driver.
Yes.
And that's what it really needs to be.
Yeah, the bandwidth is incredible. And I mean, we're talking about an iX3. You said you drove it in Ascari on the racetrack. I mean, it's not a race car, but it's the bandwidth is so amazing. You can just daily commute with your family, drive easy, have fun, and then I think about going to vacations with my family. We drive there, totally easy, speed limit 120, and we get there safe and relaxed.
Yep.
And there's a country road I see, and my family says, "Oh, we want to sit there, have dinner, or do something." And I say, "Maybe I take 30 minutes and I go have some fun."
Absolutely.
And I come back after 30 minutes. It's possible with this car. This bandwidth is just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I really commend you. Thank you so much for doing the video with me.
Thanks.
And congratulations to your team. All the stuff that you work on is massively appreciated by us.
Yes, and we'll see what the future holds.
Can't wait. That's exciting. Thank you guys for joining for this.
Well, thanks to you guys for watching all of these interviews, my full tour and first drive of the new BMW iX3. Of course, I hope you've learned by now, it's more than just the iX3. It's about the Neue Klasse platform and how cool this really is. Now, I do have a couple concerns, such as it's a great entry point right now, and I really do feel like BMW is back and on the map. I just hope they've built in enough headroom to keep up with the innovation coming from certainly other Chinese cars, or I should say other German cars, and the Chinese cars that are going insane. So I hope it's not just Neue Klasse is great today, but it'll be outdated 5 years from now. I think they've built in a lot of headroom for over-the-air updates and hardware improvements as these cars age and go through their life cycle. So I can't thank you enough for joining. And man, that was a lot of iX3 content, wasn't it? But that's the way things go here on Out of Spec. And a huge thanks to BMW for giving us as much access as we could have possibly asked for. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.